Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Ex Post Watcho, your favorite movie retrospective podcast. Each week we go watch some old movie, usually from the 80s or 90s that we haven't seen in a while, and we talk about it and see if it's any good. I'm joined, as always, by my friend and co-host, Ilana. How are you doing today, Ilana? I'm
doing fabulously. How are you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing great. I'm gonna, I guess, relive my childhood. And we're gonna watch Batman from 1989, the Tim Burton one. I feel like enough time has gone on that this has ceased being the singular version of Batman to like now it's the Tim Burton Batman, which is a little weird. When's the last time you've seen Batman? 1989?
Probably 1990. I have not seen this since I was a kid. I don't know that I even sat still enough to watch the full movie. I think it's probably been like close to 30 years since I saw this. Jesus.
I think it's been like a decade for me. I really have not a strong memory of this movie. This isn't one that I saw a lot of times. I would have seen it when it came out, probably on tape when I was a kid. What I do really remember though is this aesthetic of Batman was like really prevalent for a few years. Like when this movie came out, I think it was a pretty big deal for comic book movies. Like the Superman franchise had been going for a while. I don't know when the last Batman movie had been made. I mean, there was the TV series that ran for a while, and I know they made a movie version of that, which is basically a long episode.
With Adam West?
With Adam West, yeah. I think that there's a lot of good GIFs from that. I'm pretty sure him running around with a giant cartoon bomb, that might be from the movie.
I did watch the TV show. I loved watching that with my sisters. They had reruns on TV. I think we had Batman on VHS. I think that was one of the few VHS tapes that we owned. I don't know. Yeah, I virtually like nothing is in here in my brain.
I had some pretty
about
sweet
this movie.
McDonald's cups from this movie when it came out, or that might have been Batman Returns. They kind of blur together because they were both Tim Burton and kind of look the same. Did you watch any of the ones that came after Tim Burton? Well, okay, not. I'm sure you've seen the Chris Nolan ones, but did you watch the Val Kilmer and George Clooney, Joel Schumacher ones?
I don't think I ever saw the Val Kilmer one. I may have seen part of the George Clooney one. Is Michael Keaton Batman only in one movie?
Michael Keaton is Batman in both the Tim Burton ones.
And the villains in this one are what? Penguin?
I think it's just the Joker in this one.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, Penguin and Catwoman is Batman Returns.
Oh, okay. Fuck, maybe I haven't even seen this one. Who's the Joker in this one?
Jack Nicholson.
Oh yeah, fuck, I have definitely seen it, of course. See, I'm sure as I'm watching this, I will remember things about it. Oh boy. Yeah. I think I have seen both Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batmans. I love Michael Keaton. I don't think I saw the one. Is the one with Val Kilmer the one with Jim Carrey?
Yeah. Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones. Apparently Tommy Lee Jones fucking hated Jim Carrey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they did not get along. Tommy Lee Jones was like, you're a clown.
I could see that. Okay. Yeah, no, I vaguely remember these. I remember kind of the mood of these and the vibe of these more than I think I remember anything specific. Like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, these were a little bit darker than what the Val Kilmer, George Clooney ones were, more cartoony, correct? Like,
yeah, this really is a culture is cyclical thing, because I think when this movie came out, Batman was like the Adam West Batman, which is like super campy and over the top, wonderful in its own way. But this was like, Batman is serious now. So then we got serious Batman. And then Joel Schumacher went nuts for 2 movies, and they're just ridiculous. I don't think they're good. There is something to them in just how ridiculous they are and stylistically, but they're super over the top and cartoony. And then people were like, we're not touching Batman ever again, because that last one flopped real bad, I think. Like, I don't think it did good. And then Chris Nolan was like, what if Batman was serious? and then they did it all over again.
Yeah.
Which means hopefully we're due for a goofy, cartoony Batman soon. Which I don't think is happening because Robert Pattinson looks pretty serious.
Yeah, that one looks pretty. They released that teaser trailer, which, by the way, horrible trailer. I was like, why would you even release this? This is not. But I'm a big Robert Pattinson fan. I will defend him. I think he'll be an interesting Batman. But it doesn't look light. It looks pretty gritty and violent and dark and.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a big departure from the Nolan stuff.
Yeah. Maybe less polished. Nolan seems so polished to me. This looks a little, and it could just be because of COVID and they haven't had a chance to do much with the footage yet, but it looks a little like, I don't know, like film student-y from the trailer. I hope it is not.
They should give Cronenberg a Batman. That'd be cool. I mean, that's my stance on Cronenberg generally.
You want a Cronenberg version of every film ever made.
I want a Cronenberg Sound of Music. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to draw this out any longer. I don't remember anything from this movie. It's been so damn long. I've seen all the new ones. They're fine. So it'll be fun to go back and see what people were thinking in 1989.
Yeah, this one's for Matt. We have no clue what we're talking about. But yeah, Matt, when we come back and after you're done listening to the episode, let us know how we did.
We'll see if we assessed it correctly.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back in a little bit. This podcast needs an enema. We're back. We watched Batman. It was fun. Ilana, what'd you think of Batman?
Batman was okay. I'm starting to think I just don't really care for 80s action movies. Just across the board, it's not really my thing.
Whoa.
I was a little bored. Like it was. First of all, I don't think I've seen this whole thing, or if I did, I was not paying attention. There were a few moments at the end that I really remembered, but otherwise remembered nothing. So it was like watching it for the first time, even if it actually wasn't. I was only, 5 when this came out? 4. So I would have been young when I saw this. I only remembered the parts that really scared me when I was a kid. Yeah, it was fine. I think the problem is going back and watching this movie, having not been like a big fan of it, I think I kind of missed it a little bit because it was a little bit old for me. So this is not like my Batman. My Batman was like Nolan's Batman. Those came out, I think, when we were in high school, maybe the first one. And I love those movies. I think that trilogy is really, well, I like the first one anyway. I think the second one too. But I like that. I like that it's darker. Hearing Michael Keaton's voice as Batman is kind of weird now because Christian Bale's voice was such a thing.
Why are you trying to kill me?
Yeah, exactly.
Batman.
But it was interesting to watch. I did find myself like constantly comparing Nicholson's performance to Heath Ledger's performance, and I was thinking about Joaquin Phoenix's performance, and then more recently, I'll just go ahead and do this. Like, spoiler alert, we probably will be talking about those movies too. So if you haven't seen those, come back to this episode later, maybe, if you're listening. But yeah, it was fine. I wasn't like super, super invested, but it was a good time. It was an interesting look back. For nostalgia's sake, it was fun. I don't necessarily think this movie like holds up, but it was fine. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I've been nodding my head to a lot of what you said there. Yeah, this movie is, I don't know, it's okay. It's a different era of comic book superhero movies. You know, definitely you can compare it to today where they're sort of like tightly planned, like several movie arcs, and there's a lot of thought given to like the characters. What are the characters like and stuff like that. This feels a little bit more simple. I don't think we really get to know a ton about, you know, each of the characters. They're more, I don't know, generic, I guess. yeah, I didn't hate the movie. Like I don't want to rail on it. I think it was fine overall, but I will say kind of towards the last third, I was a bit bored. Like overall, I was kind of underwhelmed. It makes me wonder if Batman Returns is better. Like if there is sort of an upgrade there. I remember a lot more stuff from that movie. I think that might actually be the one that people remember more. But yeah, I don't know. It was okay. I like Michael Keaton as Batman, although it's really Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne and just like Batman as a non-character. And I like Nicholson's Joker for the most part, although I do have some qualms about it. I actually don't like that amount of makeup he had on his face, like the prosthetics. I think that didn't work in his favor. I love the Prince songs. Those were good. That was a highlight.
The score in this, first of all, the score was great. I think I remember the score more than the movie, Danny Elfman's. But the score and also like the soundtrack and the pop music that was played over top of scenes. It was a very overwhelming, very present audio music situation happening in this movie. There were moments where I realized like the shots were actually very slow or even fairly stagnant, but the tension felt really present just because of the audio in these scenes, and it really shifted the mood. Like there were certain scenes that could have been a lot more sinister or frightening. Like this could have been a fucking horrifying movie, but they cut short of going there every time, and then it turns into this like absurd clown world. Sorry, I kind of cut you off when you were mentioning Prince.
I didn't have a coherent point anyway, so that's good.
Okay.
In the intro part of this, I talked about how there was like campy Batman of the 60s, and then I said like this is serious Batman. And I think I overestimated how serious this was, because this actually is incredibly campy. I think what is cool about this movie is that it's a Tim Burton movie, and it's like got Tim Burton's style and vibe all over it. Like Danny Elfman is a big part of that. That score is iconic. That Batman theme is like, I got used in the cartoons too, and I watched those as a kid all the time. So like that theme was really drilled into my head. But that's Batman's music. Like that feels more iconic to me than, I don't even remember what the Zimmer Batman stuff sounds like.
Yeah.
And visually, it's all like weird and Tim Burton-y, like the camera's sideways 45% of the time. Not obnoxiously so. But like, the trees are all weird shaped, and the style of Gotham is like this weird pastiche of different time periods. Like it's kind of like the 50s, but kind of like the 80s, and everything's dirty and there's steam everywhere. There's all these steam factories.
So much steam. And I kept thinking about Pee-wee's Big Adventure when there's that moment where he goes into an alleyway and you're like, this is like Tim Burton's Batman.
Oh, yeah, you're right. My Pee-wee moment was when those clowns show up, when the guys get shot or whatever, when the Joker shoots those guys. And
those mimes?
Yeah, Tim Burton's creepy clown thing continues.
Yeah. Yeah, Gotham was really, first of all, Gotham was bopping. There were so many people out in the streets, which is so scary. Like, everyone's talking about this now, like in the time of the COVID pandemic, when you see crowded streets, even on film, you're like, oh my God.
What are they doing?
Yeah. How could we have been so careless? It is a weird place, though. The men in the streets look fucking rough. It's like they intentionally rolled in pig shit or something. And also the sex worker really goes after who I thought was baby Bruce. She's like, hi, honey, like to the child? Well, I knew Gotham was a bit shady, but
that kind of went over my head. I didn't think about that. And now I wonder. Yeah, I mean, Gotham is like dirty, it's dirty and there's crime. This is 1989 Batman, and Gotham is kind of like a New York, Chicago thing. And, the 80s was the era of crime. That was a real thing, and people we had lots of movies about that, dealing with that. So it's just like a gross, sucky place to be, but it looks really cool, and I like all the I like that it clearly looks like a set, like it's obvious that it's like a set and that's a matte painting, but I don't know, maybe this is like, I have this double standard when it comes to like effects and whether they have to be realistic or not. Because like bad looking CGI just makes me so mad, and I'm like, this is terrible. But then like a movie where it clearly looks like it's a set with matte paintings, like I like that. I like when it looks like that, you know?
Yeah. I feel like there's a difference there, though, because with CGI, I've never seen a CGI movie where the CGI wasn't supposed to actually look real. That's kind of the point, right? It's supposed to look as realistic as possible. That's what we're supposed to be so excited about CGI for, maybe. And if it looks bad, but the intention was for it to look good, quote, good or realistic, then that's just awful. But like something like this, I feel like it's such a stylistic kind of choice. It's not like, I highly doubt they were like, let's make Gotham look just like the streets of New York City or just like the streets of Chicago on a stormy night. Like it's hyper stylized. Like everything in this movie is over the top, except for maybe a couple of characters. So I can see that. I can understand where you're coming from there.
Yeah, like the buildings are like weirdly bent and sideways, and there's like a factory at one point that like just is a castle. It looks like Dracula's castle from 92 Dracula.
Maybe that's where they got the inspiration.
Well, they actually reference that in the movie, because they're like when Vicky Vale and Knox are at Bruce Wayne's fundraiser, they're in that room where Bruce has all the armor and stuff like that. They say like, what is this guy, Dracula? And then that scene where they're eating soup later, like kind of looks the same. So I thought, yeah, there kind of is like a Bruce Wayne Dracula thing going on here. I mean, I guess he's the Batman. Duh.
Also, well, while we're on it, soup on a first date, you serve soup. Yeah,
that interesting choice. But then you get the line, "How's the soup?" which is like, that's why they're having soup.
Yeah. I'm not like a lady who knows much about the fellas or dating, but I can say pretty confidently, like, guys, gals, anybody, maybe just like, if you invite someone to your elaborate Dracula mansion for a first date, well, first of all, don't go to someone's elaborate Dracula mansion on a first date. That's a red flag. I think that's a scary setup for something bad. But don't serve soup. That's all. That's all I'm getting at.
Soup is more appropriate for when you go out on the weekend and you're dancing and you meet someone and then you're like, hey, do you like soup? And, you just see where that goes.
You're right.
Not a creepy first date with a billionaire. Weird. All right, we'll get into that. I think we'll have to talk about the relationship at some point. Let's just start going through the movie here. So we kick off with the fantastic Danny Elfman. You're hyped. You're hyped for Batman. And then they trick us. You were tricked by this, and I was tricked by this too, because much credit to this movie. Thank you for not starting with the actual origin story. This is like one of the things I can't stand about the comic book culture or whatever today, is that like they always got to make the first movie the origin story, and like, man, it's so boring, because you want to see Batman being Batman, you want to see Spider-Man being Spider-Man, you don't need all the setup. Well, not all of them have done that. I think the Spider-Man ones haven't.
People like me need the setup, because I don't know.
But like, okay, so later in the movie you do find out, technically you get the origin story, although they don't really like explain that is the reason he became Batman.
He does say it at the end when he's like, you made me.
But like,
I made you.
For the first chunk of the movie, were you like, why is he Batman? Who is this guy? What is he doing? What are his motivations?
No, but if I didn't already know, because I already did know just from more recent films, not about the Joker, not about Jack. But if they didn't give us any of that, I would have been like, and this was a fresh viewing for me, I would have been, because that is a big thing that bothers me, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but like, also, because Batman is not like a superhero, like he doesn't have superpowers. He's just a fucking weird guy.
He's a rich guy. That's his power.
So I would have been like, what inspired this guy to dress like in a bat suit and do this? because I don't care as much about characters when I don't know their motivation, which is, I think, and we'll get into it, part of why I didn't love this Joker as much. But yeah, so for me, I do like it doesn't necessarily have to be the opening scene though. But
yeah, I guess the point I'm making is, I certainly agree that characters having motivations is like important, and usually, depending on the kind of movie, like a requisite thing to have a good character. I think the thing I'm moaning about is just that there were so many comic book movies, and it was always like the first comic book movie is like the whole origin story. Like, we're going to dedicate a whole movie to such and such getting their powers and discovering them and blah, blah, blah. And those can be fun stories, but like when you're seeing so-and-so on the screen for the first time, like just start me off where they got their powers and they're badass, and then fill in that stuff. Like I rather than don't make me sit through an origin story every time. Like, is the Robert Pattinson one, I wonder, is that going to be an origin story? Because if it is, I would be very disappointed. Versus, a more delicate approach would be like, hey, he's Batman, and we're going to fill in some of those details to give you that character, but, let's not drag things out.
I hear you. I do like an origin story, but if they do like another one with Batman.
I'm making a ruling. No more origin stories. Banging my gavel here. So anyway, it's not Bruce Wayne. Or it's not Bruce's parents that get mugged. It's just some random people. I was confused because like the guy was like this really wormy dude, like, we gotta catch a bus or catch a cab, and I'm like, that doesn't seem like Bruce Wayne's dad. And I kind of thought like, oh wow, like is my understanding of like Wayne Enterprises and all that stuff, like, is that not what I thought it was? But turns out just some randos. And they get mugged by some incredibly strung out looking dudes. Wow, the makeup job there. And then Batman shows up and beats them up. And this is really, this is what Batman is. He's a rich guy who beats up drug addicts. Poor people.
What a hero.
And we see him and he can't turn his head.
Fucking every movie, it kills me. It's like he has the most advanced technology known to man. He has billions and billions, Dr. Evil style. But he can't fucking figure out a suit with like neck mobility. It makes me laugh so hard. Anytime I'm like bundled up, if it's like minus 40 degrees Celsius and I'm bundled up, you know how it feels, and you just like, you can't.
You just move around like an owl.
Yeah. It looks so stupid. Any cool factor immediately goes down by significant amounts when he's sort of flailing around, unable to move his neck.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, I don't remember. I didn't do the research and go look into the other Batman movies to see like when they introduced him turning his head or which ones he can do it in or not. I think he can do it in the Nolan movies because they make a joke about it at one point. My memory of other Batman movies is I always knew there was the whole thing about not being able to turn his head, but it just kind of like, it didn't register with me. And I think maybe this one, they must have improved it in future movies because it is ridiculous in this movie. The scenes where Batman is in the suit interacting with Vicky are so funny because she says something and he just like turns his whole body, and then at some point she like gets close to him, like almost like she's gonna whisper in his ear or kiss him or something like that, and he turns away, but he has to turn his whole body to do it, and it looks so stupid. It looks ridiculous.
It's like how a toddler moves.
Yeah, like he looks like an owl, like he really is just like like shuffling off to the side. So we meet Jack / the Joker, who is a mob guy. And so I think this is new for this movie, the Joker origin story, at least the part where he is a mob guy. Like I think the whole thing about him getting knocked into a vat of acid or something like that, I think that might have been in the comics or like some version of the origin story, but I'm pretty sure I'm using a lot of like safety words here because I just didn't read enough into this to be sure, but I think that part is new. I think he hasn't been a mob guy before, which is interesting because like he really reminded me in this opening scene of a Sopranos character, mostly because of how like abusive he was to his girlfriend and like misogynistic.
And also just you're obsessed with The Sopranos.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mob character, so I mean, it's The Sopranos, it's Goodfellas, but just like his whole demeanor, like he really does remind me of, you could take that individual scene, because he's pre-Joker, and like stick that in the show somewhere, and it would actually look pretty normal.
Yeah, and like I think outside of the Joker, I liked his performance and I liked his character. He had that like cool black coat done up all the way with his hat and like the film noir vibes, and he was just kind of really slick and cool. But I guess I associate the Joker with something. I mean, it is organized crime is very sinister. It's kind of a gross thing.
Gross.
But
it's problematic.
it is. It's but I guess I always saw the Joker, and maybe it is because so I haven't read I'm not a comic person. I haven't read them. But I guess it's just because I do associate the Joker with something a little more wily or more of an underdog kind of getting his rather than somebody who is already quite powerful who just like takes it to this cartoonish extreme. Yeah. So that I was confused. I was like, is this where the Joker originated from, or in certain storylines? Because I know there's like, God, comics are so there's. I think that's why I never even started, because I was like, oh my God, there's like, it's a whole other language.
Yeah, I think that's, definitely with comic books, you can sort of almost combine different elements and make your own origin story, which I think is kind of cool, actually. That's one of the things I like about comics, is that like you can have different interpretations of the same character over and over and over again. I mean, I don't like that what we're living now is just Batman and Marvel movies over and over. Like, maybe let's give it a break, but I do like the idea of taking a character and just sort of like, here's my take on it, Yeah, and I think this Joker, what they do well, or what is sort of most noticeable about his personality, is just sort of like just a psychopath. Like, he's just supposed to be, he just doesn't have any actual feelings, doesn't care, he'll kill people, doesn't matter, kind of doing it for kicks, Like, his motivations in this movie are a little unclear, because early on they kind of make sense. So like, when we first meet him, he's sleeping with the boss's wife. So like, that's a crazy thing to do if you're in the mob, like you will get killed for that, even as a made guy. And so like, he's got, ambitions for power. The boss obviously doesn't trust him and knows what's going on, which is why he sets him up. And when he turns into the Joker, he does assert that power right away. There's a scene that actually is reminiscent of The Dark Knight, I guess, where the Joker goes into that room and is like, hey, I'm in charge now because I've got all your money. Is him basically saying like, I'm the boss of the co-op now. He's Marlo Stanfield. So his motivation here appears to be, I'm going to take over the crime family. I'm the boss of the crime family, which he does. But then what is he like? Then it doesn't really turn into, I'm the boss of the crime family doing that business. It's just like, I've got more kooky plans. I just want to poison everyone now. Like, that's when he just kind of starts fucking with people. Whereas like in The Dark Knight, you don't really get an origin story for him at all. Like, it's kind of he gives his origin story multiple times and it's totally different. And his motivation is this like weird philosophical anarchic thing where like, he's not really like, he's trying to change society by breaking their brains, basically. Like by basically, I'm going to set Batman up to like do a bad thing, and you're going to lose faith in him, and then like chaos, And then in the new Joker movie, he's like an incel. Yeah. He's Travis Bickle.
Yeah, I think that's why, because I've always heard people go on about like, Nicholson is the Joker. Nicholson is my Joker. Nicholson, and like a lot of people, we're not even talking about Jared Leto. A lot of people,
I literally forgot about that until now.
I haven't even seen it, but I've just heard awful things.
He's in it for like 2 minutes.
Oh, really?
He's not in that movie a lot.
Oh, some very unbalanced women, I think, are like hot for that version of the Joker. But I was, when I was watching this, and no hate on Jack Nicholson. I read someplace in a review, someone was like, this is Jack Nicholson doing Jack Nicholson as the Joker, which that's kind of his whole vibe, other than a couple of films he did when he was younger. But like, I wasn't really on board with this. It was just a bit too much for me. You know what it reminded me of? I know I've talked about this before. When I've been on stage, no matter like whether it's a more professional production or a more amateur production, there's like almost always one person who comes in and just thinks that being loud is how you act, and that's acting, and the louder you are or the more
you're doing the most acting.
Exactly. And it's always the most difficult person to deal with or to direct. And everyone's always like, that fucking guy was so great. And I'm like, yeah, fucking no, he wasn't. And I actually read some stuff about like Jack Nicholson actually being kind of a diva about this film and like wanting his own schedule and wanting a certain cut of
profits.
Thank
revenue.
You. Exact. Yeah. And so maybe that also was in the back of my mind watching him. But again, like I think at the time, I get why this was a huge thing and why people were like, whoa, like look at this crazy character. He's super interesting. We haven't seen something like this before. But now watching it back, it's like, God, that's a bit much for what reason? I just wasn't really invested. It was too much for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I get that that's the world as well. The world is a bit over the top, but still too much for me.
I think Jack Nicholson was a popular choice because he can bring a sort of maniacal energy quite easily. That I think that's what he's sort of most famous for, most known for. Like he's kind of doing The Shining, the last third of that movie. You can see a lot of that in this. So I think that is why I do find his Joker like entertaining. Like I actually do find him charismatic and entertaining enough that I'm like, okay, like, I like this. Where it kind of falls for me is just the movie as a whole, like the plot, and I don't know, I just kind of wasn't really invested overall. So that's kind of where it doesn't work for me. I do think it is unfortunate that he did the face prosthetic thing. Like I get what they were going for there, but part of the reason Jack Nicholson is so good is his face, and those early scenes in the movie, like I think I noticed once that stuff went on his face that something was lost there, that was in those earlier scenes. So I think that's a bummer. I really would have preferred like what they did with Heath Ledger, like they did some makeup on the sides and he still had full, expression of his face. I get it's a cool visual what they're doing. Like it looks cool. I like it, but I don't know. The trade-off for me would be like, find another way. Don't hide that beautiful face.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when they did the actual flashback to the moment that we see that he was the person in this particular version of Batman, that the Joker is the one to have killed, or Jack, that his parents were shot by the Joker. First of all, I was very attracted to this character, which upset me. But he was more upsetting to look at, like in just the sense that he felt more menacing in that moment than the Joker did throughout the whole film with his prosthetic smile on. And I think it's that there is something very upsetting about someone who has a fixed smile for a little bit too long. A human being having that rather than the prosthetic. I mean, I guess it's that Tim Burton thing of going a little bit further than you need to, and you're kind of taken into this alternate universe with it. But I agree with you.
Yeah, definitely a person smiling, like grinning at you, perhaps with like some sort of dead eyes just in your direction. That's very upsetting. Like Pennywise the Clown in the new It, they do that to good effect. Yeah, the young Jack was freaky. I agree. He definitely, I didn't realize that was even supposed to be him until he said the line and like Bruce Wayne makes the connection. I was like, oh shit, that was supposed to be young Joker. And that I believe is new for this movie as well. I don't think the Batman origin story, it was the Joker before. I think it's unnecessary.
I like it in the sense that, like, if this is the first Batman movie we've seen, like, in this series, of Batman movies, whatever they call it. I thought it was interesting. I did like, but probably one of my favorite parts of the movie was like the final scene where they're having their final showdown and they're talking about how they made each other. Like, I like the concept of it. I don't know that necessarily like we needed 2 hours to get there. Or if they would have explored that a little bit more, I would have liked it a little bit more because I do like the concept of it. But I just don't think it was almost like just thrown in as like a, oh, and also guess what?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a hack because like the Batman Joker relationship is supposed to be we made each other, we need each other. You know, like the Joker is like almost in love with Batman. You know, explicitly, like he's like, no, like this is what we do. Whereas in this, you know, and it's kind of like you're grappling with like vigilantism. You know, like there's crime and then someone responds, and you know, who are you to deal justice and I'm going to poke at you and what lines you will and won't cross. You know, Joker's always trying to make him kill him or kill people. This movie doesn't do any of that shit. That was actually something I thought was kind of funny, was like the whole Batman, should I kill people thing, you know, like I'm a good guy, I don't use guns, I don't do this and that. He definitely kills a ton of people in this movie, or like allows them to die. So I'm like, okay, well, actually, I was kind of relieved that we weren't going to do that whole debate. Just nope, this is a Batman that kills people. But yeah, so the whole thing about like we made each other is supposed to be a little bit more, maybe more deep and explored and complicated, whereas this was just sort of like, it's a bit of a hack to be like, you killed my parents. The Batman's parents getting killed is the inciting event for him becoming Batman, but it's like it's because of crime and, you know, it's the 80s, Death Wish. I don't even know if that was in the original origin story. Like, I don't know when the Batman's parents getting killed, making him Batman, if that was in like Detective Comics in the 40s or something, or did that show up in the 80s?
I feel like the pearls and the pearls falling is such like an iconic Batman thing.
Yeah, because you've seen it like 10 times over the last 5 years. Okay, so Vicky Vale meets Knox, the journalist guy, and they're like, we're gonna team up to figure out what the fuck this Bat guy is all about.
Because she is horny for bats for some reason.
Yeah, Vicky's a weird character. I think this is a part of the movie that really I was like underwhelmed with. I've got nothing against Kim Basinger. She seems nice and all, but just like her character is so boring, and the relationship with Bruce Wayne is like weird. Just the way that just happens out of nowhere. They're just like, we're dating now.
Yeah. I think, I think their relationship was a bit strange, how it kicked off and then got borderline abusive very quickly. But I liked this character. I think because she was not like a lot of women characters that I've ever seen on screen. Like, she was kind of just like a weird person, and they made it kind of charming. I didn't think she was boring. I really liked her, thank goodness, because she was in this a lot. I do not remember her at all from this movie. But yeah, even though she was a model, I still really like Kim Basinger, and I enjoyed watching her. Because I think her character is just weird, and they just ran with it. Or maybe she's just kind of weird, and she made the character a little strange.
So this was supposed to be played by Sean Young, and right before they started filming the movie, she got in an accident and like broke her leg or something, so she was out. So Kim Basinger was called in like right at the last minute as like, you can do this, get her. So I think that might be part of it. I kind of tried to mentally substitute Sean Young for Kim Basinger as I was watching it, and I kind of think Sean Young would have been a little bit spicier, and that might have helped.
Spicier?
Yes.
I think she would have been more stoic.
I guess it depends how they play it. I'm thinking of like her character in Ace Ventura. She's like really like intense and sassy, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I just found I was kind of just bored with her. I wasn't sold on her.
I liked her a lot.
Well, yeah. And
then,
the
tables have turned.
Okay, well, yeah, she's my Tom Everett Scott. She ruins every scene she's in.
Really?
No.
That bad?
She's fine.
Okay.
I think she's okay. Like, I just was like wasn't connecting with me, wasn't registering.
Yeah. I like the two of them together. I thought they had good chemistry, and like I agree, like the storyline, the progression is a bit odd. But I thought they had chemistry, and I thought it was kind of a strange, playful, like two fucking weirdos, freak shows kind of recognized each other and were like, I see you, I
guess. I think their chemistry was good. I agree with that. Like, her and Michael Keaton do
They're
well.
two hot potatoes.
Yeah.
Just doing, I don't know, fucking weird shit.
But I didn't understand the way the relationship worked, because like there's the fundraiser thing or whatever that her and Knox sneak into, and then they're talking shit about Bruce Wayne, and oops, he's right behind them. And they kind of chat for 5 minutes, and then like 2 scenes later, she's like, they're eating soup. Like, they've already escalated to soup. And I'm like, how did you get at soup so fast?
Yeah. I mean, he's a billionaire. I guess you just, when a billionaire invites you over for soup, you go.
I mean, it made sense that like they were talking, you know what I mean? Like something, I can't remember what they discussed, because I think she was trying to figure out Batman. What's the story with Batman?
Yeah.
And then, so them meeting up again made sense, but it was just like, oh, it's like clearly a date. Like they're on a date and they're in love now.
There was a split second when I thought that she was kind of using him to get the inside scoop. And I thought that would have been interesting if they would have maybe played on that a little bit before they fell in love over soup.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, it's just all a little, it all moves so fast. A little underdeveloped.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Jack gets set up by the boss, gets knocked into the acid. He gets Jokerified. That was cool.
The goo, some 80s goo.
Yeah, that factory is just like a green goo factory. It was so gross.
Yeah. And then the doctor working on on Jack was like, your nerves have been completely severed. Is that how that works? Or just like your nerves were severed? All of his nerves? What? What does that have to do with anything, even if they were?
Yeah, I think the science of, like, the mechanics of the injury aren't really explained. Like, there's no reason why his mouth would go up like that.
Yeah, and also if all your nerves are severed, he's not going to be able to, like, manhandle tiny little trick toys in and out of his coat pockets like that. Also, I like how that doctor was like, what? These are the tools I'm working with.
Yeah.
It's just like something someone pulled up from, like, under an old motorcycle or something.
What do you expect me to do? Yeah, that whole... Okay, so there's a big fight scene between Batman and Jack at that point. And I just wrote that, like, Michael Keaton looks so funny when he's trying to, like, pull Jack up. Because in these fight scenes, like... Michael Keaton works really well as Bruce Wayne, I think. And I think he works fine as Batman. I don't think Michael Keaton really did anything wrong as Batman. But there's just such a stark difference between the two. And I believe one and I just don't believe the other. Like, I believe Bruce Wayne. He's great. He's a sort of like, I don't know, a more everyman version of Bruce Wayne, I guess. Like Michael Keaton's just got this like little bit goofy energy. He's cool, but he's not like that cool. But then as Batman, he just like, his facial expression is very like stoic every time he's Batman. And I kind of get that Batman, when he's in Batman mode, he's got to be serious. Like, I think these are things that were kind of perfected, we'll say, with Christian Bale in the Nolan ones. But here it's just like, the voice is not quite there, and the stiffness and the like stoic facial expression just make him look strange. Not intimidating, not scary, just weird.
Yeah, all of this was weird. I mean, it makes sense. It's a Burton movie. Everyone's weird in this. Yeah.
The scene where Joker shows up to mob boss guy, the boss, who's like, you set me up over a woman. You must be insane. And he's like in the shadows walking towards him. He looks very cool there, very menacing before we get the face reveal. I thought that was good.
Yeah. I agree. There are a couple of scenes where the way Joker's shot, he's right in the middle of like the frame. And yeah, and at the end, during the sort of parade, they shoot him the same way, but he's super lit at that point as well. I think a pretty strong choice. I love that scene where he goes to confront his boss, the music, and it's just like, here we go. Now it's on. This guy's a psychopath.
Yeah, and that was the moment though where I sort of made the sad realization that the facial prosthesis kills things, because like he's giving this creepy performance and then his face comes out and then there's just like the whole mouth area can't really move much, and I was like, oh man, that sucks. Oh yeah, so after they have soup and then they have a little more than soup together, she wakes up in Bruce Wayne's bed and he's like in these fucking gravity boots upside down, because he's Batman, bats, I get it, but like to me that would just be like, oh god, this guy's fucking Patrick Bateman, there's something weird going on here.
Yeah. She's into it though, because she's like really like, when's the next time I can see you? Like when they wake up, and she's like, okay, I'll call you. And he's like, I got stuff going on.
I got a meeting.
Yeah. And then Alfred just sells him out. She's like, oh, like, when will you be back in town? And Alfred's like, oh, we're not going anywhere, ma'am. Anyway,
Bruce is telling one of his lies again. Alfred, this is... I feel bad for this Alfred. He just seems like he should be retired. Like, does this guy got to clean the whole fucking house after that big party? And then he's also got to do Batman research, because Bruce is like, go look up the files for whatever the fuck.
I mean, I guess that's kind of like what a butler does.
They're like your superhero sidekick too?
I mean, that's what Alfred is, isn't he?
I guess.
He's sort of like daddy, friend, confidant, pastor.
I mean, I guess the thing is he's been with the family for a long time and he knew the dad, and, you know, he's taking care of Bruce. So like they have this close relationship. I get it.
Alfred's the best guy in the Batman story. He's the person with the most integrity in these Batman movies.
Sure, I think Michael Caine Alfred is fantastic. Like I
love Michael Caine Alfred.
Yeah, I think that version works really well. I think this version is just so different, and maybe that's the one I'm more used to, because this is just a very like, you know, stodgy old man. Very serious. So Bruce goes and leaves some flowers for his parents, and Vicky follows him in this like ridiculous outfit. She's like sneaking around following Bruce Wayne, and she's got a hat. Vicky follows him in this like ridiculous outfit. She's like sneaking around following Bruce Wayne, and she's got a hat that is like a giant medicine ball, a big black medicine ball on her head. It's the most conspicuous thing ever. Not stealthy.
I missed this. I saw this in your notes and I was like, I didn't clock that.
It's huge. That's all I could see. And then, the Joker shows up at some event.
Is this after the Joker was like making collages in his Joker lair?
I think that comes later. Because he eventually the Joker develops like an obsession with Vicky. Again, kind of arbitrarily.
She's just so beautiful. She is a model after all.
I guess.
Both of the women that are featured in this film are models.
Who's the other one? The one that Joker was like tormenting?
Jerry Hall, yeah. And there's 400 fat old men in this and 2 supermodels. Give me a fucking break. Anyway, we can continue, but just had to make note.
The fat old men taking the old alcoholic cop roles.
They also talk at one point when he's like, how much do you weigh? And she's like, like 108 pounds. Give like, I think 108 pounds. I think the last time I weighed 108 pounds was in 4th grade. Like, that's insane. I actually don't know how big I was. That's very malnourished for like an average height, for a supermodel height. Give me a break. And then, so fuck off her. And then he calls her out over it. And he's like, you're more than 108 pounds. What? Fuck you also, Batman. What's going on in this movie?
No, Batman was saying, you don't need to lie to me about your weight. You don't need to be ashamed. He was being very supportive.
Yeah, what a fucking chivalrous move.
Look, those grappling hooks have weight limits. You need to be honest. Yeah, so we get this thing at the courthouse where there's a bunch of crime dudes and Joker kills them. And then there's scary clowns.
I wanted more from those clowns. I expected more. They kind of just like drove off into the sunset with Joker, but I was preparing myself for a more climactic sort of experience in that scene, but it just kind of fizzles out.
I think there's more weird clowns like this in the sequel. I actually, from the Batman Returns video game for the Atari Lynx, which I played a lot as a kid, like there was a lot of those mime clowns in it, and I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of like weird clown stuff in the movie too, even though the Joker isn't in it.
Oh, interesting.
So if you want more of that, that's the place to go.
Okay.
So the Joker has basically taken over the mob at this point. He's in charge, and he kind of goes on his big scheme. I don't know what his plan is exactly or what he gets out of it, but he's basically poisoning the city. So, people are using different products, and suddenly they're getting the grinning face thing that kills them, and then they die like that. So I think in the old Joker comics there was a thing about like Joker would poison people, and then when they died they would get this grin. It was interesting, like the scene, because they're communicating this through the news, and you see these newscasters, and I was like, what is going on at first? Because it's just like they just look like shit. They're all sweaty. They're all pale. They've got like acne all over the place. Apparently this is what happens if you go a week without using products. And they're like, they don't know where it's coming from. They don't know if it's in this or in that, and blah, blah, blah. And that's interesting because I wonder if this was inspired by the Tylenol poisonings that happened in the early 80s. Did you hear about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was that in like Chicago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A bunch of people died, and they eventually figured out that like someone had tampered with Tylenol throughout the city and just like put like potassium chloride poison in it. And a bunch of people died. I think that might have inspired this choice a little bit, which was interesting.
Yeah, possibly. I will note though that a lot of time when you buy like soap or shampoo, there's no protective barrier there. So people, I mean, if the Joker wanted to, he could still run this game again.
Yeah, so Joker's just kind of he's fucking things up now. He's hijacking the airwaves and getting in people's faces. Then Vicky gets summoned by Bruce, but apparently it's not actually Bruce, for a date at the museum, at the Flugelheim Museum. And we get what I think is the best scene in the movie, which is the Joker and his posse showing up and like trashing the place in what is like a basically a short Prince song music video. I love the song. Prince is really good at making drums. Listen to that snare drum. Listen to how punchy it is. That was the 80s, folks.
This scene read to me more like a Nickelodeon kids TV show.
Yeah.
This was nuts. I was like, what is happening here? This is when I realized how horrifying this movie could have been, but it was so goofy. But it was still fun. But just nuts. And so he sends her a little box, which she doesn't know where it came from. A server, because she's in like the cafe at the art gallery. And it's like, put this on now. It's a little face mask. No straps. Like, hello. And she's just like standing there staring at it, and like all this purple smoke is coming out of all the vents, and everyone else is falling over. And she's just like,
what if the mask is full of bugs or something? You don't know where that came from.
Oh my God. Or like run, move.
What if it's got someone else's bad breath in it? That was a scene. That was one of those scenes. This movie, like, yeah, you see a scene of a crowd walking together, and you're like, whoa, that's not right. And then there's like two scenes in this movie that involve people putting on masks to not die. The funnier one is later on when like Knox is running through the like poison gas, and he's just got like an N95 just kind of somewhere vaguely around his face. I'm like, bro.
He was a great character. I wish we saw more of him, not just like going cuckoo bananas nutso over Kim Basinger. Because he was funny on his own. He was making dad jokes and stuff, but we didn't see as much of him as I wanted.
He's got kind of an Albert Brooks vibe. Or like appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's kind of just, he's a goofball. People don't take him seriously. They don't take his bat reporting seriously.
Yeah.
I like that drawing they made to like make fun of him it's like an actual bat in a suit. That was actually really cute. I liked it. Batman definitely kills a bunch of people at the museum. One guy shows up like just flailing swords in all directions at him. And I thought that was really funny because it reminds me of the Star Wars prequels. They really went crazy with like what you could do with lightsabers. Like the original movie, they kind of almost treated them like swords. And then in the prequels, they're like, what if you could just fucking spin them everywhere all the time in a way that doesn't make any sense, but kind of looks cool? And that's basically what this guy's move was.
Oh, to be honest, I kind of zone out during the action scenes because they're so boring for me. I don't even remember this guy.
Yeah, he brings her back to the Batcave.
And she's like, bats.
I love bats. I love you. She tries to take his mask off, and that's when he like does the owl turn away, and it looks really funny. And then he says, there's something else you have that I want. And then he like bat smokes something and like, I don't know, fucking decks her to knock her out. Like, I don't know what happened there, but she just wakes up in her bed. It was like, looked real bad for a second, but then she's like, oh, the film, he took the film. You're like, oh, okay. Her apartment is way too nice. Actually, no, I shouldn't say too nice. It's weird. It's a really nice, weird apartment. I was taken by that apartment.
Especially for an 80s apartment. This is no Goodfellas apartment. This is like a real, like, classy joint.
Yeah, I don't know. It's got, like, again, castle kind of vibes to it. It's got a big fucking fireplace in it. Crazy.
She is a journalist.
Yeah.
You know how much money journalists make.
She's a journalist investigating like the fringe news story no one takes seriously in her. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's the 80s and crime is bad. Maybe property values dropped and she could afford something like that. It's in a bad neighborhood.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Then Bruce Wayne shows up and he's like gonna explain he's Batman in a little comedy scene.
Okay.
This is when he crosses your line.
This is when he crosses my line for sure. She's like, kind of like, fuck you, guy. You've been like playing me, stringing me along. You just show up with some flowers. I'm supposed to just think you're hot shit again. She's much nicer about it. And then he literally shoves her into a chair and is like, shut up. What?
That was a bit unexpected. Is this supposed to be like, yeah, like, is this supposed to be like this wasn't even a like back and forth, like, you know, Karen and what's his nuts from Goodfellas, you know, they give and they get in equal measure. This was just him shoving her over and telling her to stop talking. Crossed the line. It was not cute. It was not sexy. We don't do that. I think I don't know if they did a bunch of takes and maybe they picked the wrong one or something like that. It just comes across as more like sinister and mean than anything else. Like Michael Keaton's character in this is just like, hey, I'm Bruce Wayne. Like he's a nice guy. But in this one moment, he's like, shut up, and shoves her down into the chair. Trying to tell you I'm Batman, you know. I think the script might have had something like that, but it was like maybe that's not what they had in their head.
It doesn't play well, and it certainly does not hold up.
The Joker shows up, and he's got the hots for Vicky, and Bruce Wayne kind of runs away and then comes back and gets shot. But he's okay.
Kim Basinger screams a lot. She screams a lot in this whole movie. She has a great scream also.
I like when they're kind of like bullying Bruce Wayne, or, you know, like Bruce and the Joker are having a confrontation. She's standing there with a bowl of popcorn and she actually is like eating it. Like, sure, why not?
She has to maintain her 108-pound figure.
Yeah, she's like, this is my 30-minute feeding window for the next 12 hours, okay? You do not fuck with this. So anyway, the Joker fucks off. There's a box on the table that the Joker left, and she opens it for some reason. Like, what are you doing? Don't open it. Throw it in the dumpster.
She's a journalist. She's got that curiosity. She's got to know.
Seems irresponsible.
This could be the big lead for her story.
Well, it's some Jack in the Box thing, and she gets spooked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think around this point we get the reveal that it was Joker who killed Batman's parents. Bruce Wayne has been doing his own research off of Alfred's back. So he figures that out. Batman walking around his lair. He looks like Steve Jobs. He's got like the jeans and the turtleneck. I wonder if that's where he got the idea. I don't know who came up with it first, but then Batman just goes and blows up a whole factory with a circular bomb. Is that even how bombs work?
I don't know anything about bombs.
That seems made up. Yeah, and then we get the Joker at the parade. And there's another Prince song playing at this part. And I like the song. And it's kind of funny, but it also felt weirdly out of place.
Yeah. As soon as like the first shot of the parade started, I was like, oh, here we go. It's getting spooky. And then the Prince song started playing and I was like, are we having fun? I'm not really sure how to feel right now.
I think this movie is about fun. So, yes, have fun now. It is fun time. Honestly, at this point in the movie, I kind of was like getting bored. This last 30 minutes, I was a little tuned out.
I think I was the opposite. I think I was pretty tuned out up until this point. And then when this started happening, I was kind of a little more focused. I had a lot of fun in the last kind of 20, 30 minutes. This movie is too long. 2 hours is too long for this movie. For a goofy Batman movie.
Yeah.
Trim some fat.
Yeah. Yeah, so Joker starts poisoning people with the gas and the balloons. The very Tim Burton looking balloons. Again, just Tim Burton aesthetic everywhere, which is cool. I like that. Those are my balloons. I took my balloons.
My favorite lines. Yeah.
That was good.
That was a great moment.
Joker has, and Jack Nicholson has, just a lot of like good lines in this movie. I think that is probably the highlight of it. Like, I think the reason why people like Jack Nicholson's Joker so much, and maybe what reverence exists for this movie is, you ever dance with the devil in the pale blue light?
Moonlight. Yeah.
Moonlight. I knew I was going to work that. Never rub another man's rhubarb.
I liked he was a thief and a terrorist. On the other hand, he had a tremendous singing voice.
I like the part where he goes to the henchman. He's like, "You're number one guy." That was good. Yeah, so his balloons are gone. That's too bad. Then he takes Vicky and runs to a castle or something, a church tower.
First of all, before he grabs Vicky, isn't this when Batman shows up and shoots like 10 trillion bullets at him?
Oh yeah, okay.
And he's like, anyway, at this point I genuinely was like, what is the Joker? Is he an immortal? Why has he not been hit? Does he have superpowers that I have never known about where he can like deflect bullets? Like, is this some Wonder Woman shit where he's got some sort of armor on?
He's a ghost. He's actually dead. No, I think what happened was Batman fired 1,000,000 bullets at the Joker and they all just missed. And Joker stood there. He's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm the Joker. You can shoot me. And then Batman, they all missed. It was
Bruce.
Joker's good luck. I mean, I think this is something that like kind of they do in The Dark Knight. I might be misremembering, but say like this sort of like, yeah, you can shoot at me and you'll probably miss. I don't care. I'm a sociopath.
Is he manifesting?
He's willing it. Yeah, The Secret. Joker read The Secret. He's got a vision board. That's what that is. That's what all those pictures are. Oh, this makes sense. It's real. So Batman misses, and then the Joker pulls out like this comically long revolver, which is funny and a good visual gag. However, it doesn't actually make any sense that a bullet, like that's not going to make your bullet do any more damage because it's still just going to be a tiny little revolver bullet and not like some giant 50 caliber thing. Just saying, movie doesn't check out. But that was funny. So yeah,
this part really pulled you out.
I was like, what? My immersion. I barely know anything about guns, but I do know that one thing, that a longer barrel is not going to make the bullet bigger. And that's probably the thing that matters most if you're trying to take down a bat plane with a single shot. So Vicky and Joker run away to the church tower thing, and Joker sprays acid and makes the bell fall down, and I don't know, Batman runs up in there and they fight. They talk and they fight.
This is the weirdest fight. So first of all, Joker kind of fights, but mostly he lets his lackeys do it, and he's having a little ballroom dance session on the balcony with Vicky, which is, I think, something that I really remember. I think is a fairly iconic kind of scene in the music and everything. These guys coming after Batman. First of all, there's this guy with these like very spiky, jumpy knife heels who's just like doing a lot of backflips. This is very sort of Blade Runner style.
Yeah.
Like.
Do you think that was a reference to Blade Runner? Because it's basically the same thing.
And he had blades on his runners. Oh. Maybe. It was absolutely just as ridiculous. Batman just takes him out by basically like flicking his finger at him. And then the other guy comes at Batman from behind, but entirely misses and just falls. He just plays himself. He just falls right through the floor.
He gets bonked with the bell, right? Doesn't like...
On his way down?
Something like that.
But I mean, possibly. At that point, I kind of checked out a little bit for a while because this scene was very long. Very long.
Yeah. I was like bored at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get to see Jack Nicholson and being all jokery and stuff like that. I mean, when Batman like kind of fucks him up a little bit and he's got like blood coming out of his mouth, that actually was kind of cool. I was like, wow, he actually looks like way more menacing here. Maybe you just put some blood in someone's mouth and they look scarier.
I do remember there were a couple moments that really stood out that I did sort of recall from my memory bank of the chattering teeth that fall out of his jacket.
Oh, yeah.
When they're fighting. That really freaked me out when I was a kid. The other one is when he eventually falls off of the tower and there's that little laughing box. That's a creepy shot with his, smile and he's dead and it's this laugh on repeat. I kind of didn't mind when the Joker and Batman were actually fighting on the top of the bell tower. I thought it was... I enjoyed seeing them actually engage. Like I said, I kind of like the callback with the dance with the devil in the pale moonlight line. We made each other. Like there was actually a little bit of content. It wasn't just kind of people being cool and pretty. I just kind of wanted it to be stretched out throughout the whole film. Maybe not just like condensed into these last couple of moments. But I kind of liked the last little bit.
The part where he falls off the building, I think they switched to like animation at one point, like when he's like in the shadows and you can kind of still see his face. I think that's like hand-drawn animation in a very weird Tim Burton-y looking way.
It looked very not great.
Yeah, I mean it looks fake, but I think in a way that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it kind of didn't make sense to my brain.
I like how the gargoyle on the roof ripped off, not his leg, when Batman snapped the two together. I was like, I don't know if that's how that would go.
Again, maybe he has manifested some sort of powers, or maybe he has some sort of powers we're not aware of.
Or he's been lifting. And drinking a lot of milk.
Yeah, he dies.
He dies. I presume he's actually dead. I don't know if they were going to bring him back or anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
and they make a bat signal.
Oh my God. How fucking dramatic of Batman. He's like, he could be like, here's my number. He's like, hey guys, anytime you want to get a hold of me, just like this giant fucking spotlight. Okay, this billionaire, how many fucking hungry mouths could you feed with the amount of money you put into this enormous diva spotlight?
The spotlight doesn't even seem like an effective way to do things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess this was before the era of the burner cell phone. So, like, maybe you got to come up with something to kind of keep yourself anonymous. You can't give the number to Wayne Manor. But what if Batman is asleep? He's not going to see it. It doesn't make any sound. Does Alfred have to stay awake all night looking into the sky for the bat signal? I bet he does. He's like doing the dishes, staring out the window.
What if something bad happens during the day?
Right.
And maybe it isn't overcast. There are some just flaws in this.
Batman is only available after like 7 p.m. whenever sunset happens. It's a silly system.
Previous to bedtime, Commissioner Gordon is on the case. Commissioner Gordon, who obviously can't even run half a block. Come on.
Yeah, I'm really used to...
Yeah, this is something I also like from the newer movies. Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon makes so much more sense to me.
Yeah, he's actually a character in those movies. Like,
yeah, and he's a great character.
He's got a whole relationship with Batman that develops over the movies. You know, you get to know what he's all about. And Gary Oldman is Gary Oldman, so he's great. Yeah, whereas the commissioner in this one is just like, yeah, he's just the commissioner, you know. He's just some some guy.
Yeah. It was weird. Yeah. Oh, and then Vicky drives off with Alfred.
Yeah, Vicky,
and she's like,
really brushes
I know what's
Knox
going
off.
on.
Like, Knox is like, where are you going? She's like, I'm just leaving.
Yeah.
I know I approached you to work on this Batman project, but I'm done with that now. Bye. She didn't even say that. She just was like, bye.
She's a bit of a tease with him. Earlier when he's asking her to dinner and she tells him she's going to Bruce Manor, she like touches him and gets real close and she's like, bye-bye. Come on, get your 108 pounds out of there.
Well, that was Batman.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I watched it. I mean, Joker was fine. I like that everything he was doing was like performance art. It was an interesting kind of take. They kind of alluded to, you know, beauty and physical appearance and art and all kinds of cool things that I would have loved to see develop, but they were never developed. Everything felt a little bit shallow, but it was fine. A little bit long. I don't love the action scenes. I like Michael Keaton. I like Kim Basinger. I'm glad I rewatched it, or maybe this is the first time I've seen it, other than maybe the ass end of this movie.
You know what? I remembered that I'd watched this 10 years ago when the new Batmans came out, and then I realized I think I quit 30 minutes in. I actually don't think I saw it all the way through, and I may not have never actually seen the whole movie. This might have been the first time.
Do you like the Nolan Batman?
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
Kind of, the third one's a bit rocky, bit of a mess, but they're good. Overall, I like them.
Mm-hmm. I really love the idea of Batman. Like the fact that this guy's just this weird billionaire who's like, I'm going to fucking get it done. Like of all the superheroes and all of that, I think when I was younger, I was most interested in Batman. I don't read comics. I don't really know a lot about them. But yeah, I've got to say, and maybe it's just because the Nolan experience was my sort of youthful experience of Batman, going and watching this one now, it is a little disappointing, especially because people are so hard on this movie and the Joker. It was okay.
Wait, when you say hard on this movie, like they're like, yeah, like reverent for it?
Yes. Like they go hard for this movie. They really love it. And people will argue till the end of time of like who the best Joker is.
they're all different though.
You know?
Like,
oh, so different.
yeah, like I think the Heath Ledger one is like maybe the best Joker, just because like what he did there was, I don't know, it was like a really good performance, and the interpretation of the character was like just like a weird guy. He's just this abstract, chaotic entity that shows up out of nowhere, and he kind of has no backstory. They make a point of like, yeah, you don't really know what his deal is. That yeah, it's I don't know, it's hard to compare the different Jokers. I like that they're all different and weird interpretations. I would have a hard time saying this one is like the best or most interesting. You know, it's the most Jack Nicholson, and I like Jack Nicholson, and he does a really good job in it. So I think it's good. I enjoy it. But you know, the facial prosthesis kind of bums me out. And I'm just not super meh, whatever. I'm meh on it.
Yeah, me too. Like, for me, this was like, I don't know, 5 blades on 3 runners out of 17.
I feel this is worth about 7 bowls of soup.
And Matt, who we've done this episode for, which was requested by our friend Matt, my friend Matt. He's my friend, not your friend, Jason. Let us know. Let us know what you think about what we think about Batman.
Yeah, I hope we haven't let you down if this is a movie that you're, hold close to your heart. Like I said, I think there's positives about it, but I don't know. For me personally, it's okay.
Yeah, it was fine watching it. I don't think I'd go back and rewatch this one.
Do you feel inspired to watch Batman Returns?
Yeah, I am curious about it now, because I think that most of my Batman memories pre-Nolan are of Batman Returns. And I think in my head, I confuse this movie and Batman Returns.
Yeah, that's my prediction, is that Batman Returns is probably better. And that everything I remember from it, because I guess timeline wise, okay, Batman Returns came out in 92. In 89, I would have been like 5 years old. Definitely don't remember like the releases of movies then, but I do remember in the early 90s just a shitload of Batman merchandise, like toys, McDonald's cuffs that I had forever. Like, so yeah, I think really the iconic Batman stuff was that sequel, and I think the theme music was used in the cartoon, so that is definitely something that carried over. Yeah, I don't know. I guess what I do think is pretty cool about this movie is that it does kind of blend the campy with a little bit of seriousness in a way that is fun. Because basically, once you got to the Schumacher ones, it was like all camp. It didn't have the Tim Burton weirdness to it. I don't know if it really had a Joel Schumacher weirdness to it. There weren't a bunch of people going Batman, Batman, Batman. And then we got into the era of, the new DC movies. So that are, I don't know. Well, the Batman ones aren't. I guess they are serious. There's some levity to them, but like I just don't like any of the Zack Snyder stuff. I just find everything is brown.
Oh, are those like Justice League?
Yeah, the Justice League ones. Ben Affleck.
I've never seen Ben Affleck's Batman.
Bat Affleck.
Yeah,
he's okay. He does the Batman voice.
Keaton's a great Batman. I think Bale's my Batman.
I agree. Well, that was Batman. This has been Ex Post Watcho. Thank you for listening this week. We'll be back next week to talk about Zodiac. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to give us some feedback, or you'd like to suggest a movie to us, you can email us at xpostwatcho@gmail.com. You can find us on social media, Instagram and Facebook at xpostwatcho. And if you could leave us a review on your podcasting application platform of choice, that would be appreciated. It helps get the show out there. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good week.